It's the last day of the month and we'll be getting a strong monthly close. Unless something drastic changes over the course of today, and that's most likely going to drive the next big move for the crypto markets. In today's show, we'll have a look specifically at the roadmap for the rest of the bull run, what you can expect for the final 20%. Will we get a breakdown in Bitcoin dominance? Will altcoins ever rally? If so, which ones will be the best performing assets? And a whole lot more. Smash the like button, hit the bell notification, and subscribe to the channel. Let's get straight into the show content. On the hourly, we're seeing a little bit of a pullback on the Monday open. Remember the saying, never trust the weekend pump. The weekend saw some positive price action. So oftentimes on a Monday, you'll give up some of those gains, right? We'll have a look at what this means for the rest of the market. But long story short, for Bitcoin, very, very good chance you see another sweep down into $106,000. That probably provides a really, really good opportunity for those of you that are looking to take advantage of any breakouts following a strong weekly and monthly close. So we have had a strong weekly close. Will we get a strong monthly close? We've been speaking about it for a couple of weeks where we said that the short squeeze is in motion. It's still in motion. It'll play out over a couple of weeks because it's really denoted to what's happening in the stock market. With the stock market trading at all-time highs over there, with some of the highest closing candles we've ever seen on Nasdaq, S&P 500. We'll have a look at Dow Jones as well. Check out some of the stock market and indices over there to see where things are most likely to go next. But as long as the stock market keeps floating up, Bitcoin's path of least resistance is most likely to follow the stock market, and it's mostly been lagging it, actually, if you have a look at the entirety of the cycle. So 163 million liquidated over the last 24 hours. This is not massive. I would expect these numbers to actually pick up. Short traders hedging with stops above the swing highs for Bitcoin. That's probably where the big numbers come in terms of liquidations. We'll have a look at that as well in a bit in terms of, there we go, we got the liquidation heat map, 75 million at just around that $109,000 level. So all in all, everything going according to plan. And if you look at Seth Golden, who's a macro analyst that has a look at historical data and specifically how things play out in terms of patterns, this is what he's identified. If you look at the S&P 500 and the number of all-time highs from all the way back from the Great Depression, 1929, all the way till now, what you found is you can summarize it like this based on a strong close for this month, assuming that nothing drastic changes over the course of today. There will be a 96% probability that the S&P 500 will make at least one more all-time high this year in 2025, which means, again, the path of least resistance is higher. Then we could talk about some of those upside targets. And then he says over here, and there's a 91% probability based on the data set over here, that it could make 6 new all-time highs. Now, I think that, well, that would mean you're just making a new all-time high every single month until December. So I would rather go on the more conservative side, as always, and we take it 1 month at a time. But things are looking really, really good. Here you have the S&P 500 with a fib extension measured from the COVID lows to the recent highs back down to the local lows. And basically, we're pressing up right into that 100% of the move, which means that we've repeated the move that we had from COVID all the way to when we set the highs in 2021, which ushered in the last crypto bear market that we had. We went through the downtrend, reaccumulation, and basically we've reprojected that exact same size move. So now we're moving into the gravy section, which is the trajectory all the way up to possibly even the 1.618. Oftentimes, when you do grind through that 100% level, you do see slingshot movement with price obviously rapidly appreciating. But I think the thing you want to focus on is that declining RSI. Watch as that RSI, and we're now on the monthly scale, as that RSI reaches and presses up into that trend line over there, then you can kind of have a look at where price is relative to that 1.618. But that could imply possibly the stock market running as high up as 7,750. Now, definitely wouldn't expect that to happen over the course of 1 month. But if you do follow this in terms of what Seth has said over here, and you put in at sometimes 91% probability, you can put in 6 new highs and you run for the rest of the year, well, that would be another 26% move, which I don't think is absolutely out of the question. I think that's completely possible. So where does that leave Bitcoin, right? Well, we'll get to that in a bit. First, let's have a look at the DXY. DXY has been respecting this multi-decade parallel channel, rising towards the upside, and it's coming in for its next test at that multi-decade low boundary trend line over there. So It depends if you can breach this. If you can breach this, I think it's almost inevitable that this is going to run 26% into that 7,700 region, which I'll show you what that means for Bitcoin. Spoiler alert, at least $125,000 to $130,000. But if you do start to break this multi-decade trend line towards the downside, then you can start to look down towards some of these other measured move targets, which you'll be looking at 88 and possibly even below. We'll take it one step at a time, but the move through there towards 88 is going to be big, right? That could bring a lot of liquidity into the markets over there. Let's actually leave that yellow line on the chart since we've covered it live today. That way we can always go back and see how accurate it is. So at least my prediction is that you would at minimum hit this trend line. You're getting very, very, very close. We focused on this for a long time, ever since we started to set in the daily lower highs, and you broke that midline level, and then we started to accelerate towards this low region. So we'll need to assess on a daily time frame how price is reacting at 95, which is on the DXY. Remember, if the DXY goes down, typically risk on assets move towards the upside. If the DXY is rallying, usually that's where your bear markets come into play. So when you see rallies like that, strong rallies, that's where your bear markets come into play. So we do want to be careful that this doesn't reject. We always want to look, how is price correlating or in relation to this? If it comes into this level and it starts to hold the support, where's Bitcoin? If Bitcoin's at $125,000, $130,000, then that's probably a sign to take some profits for at least a little bit of a relief rally bounce, where maybe later on you can start to break that. So let's quickly look at the rest of the stock markets and other indices over here, and then we'll get into crypto. So QQQ trading a new all-time highs, right? Highest daily close ever, highest weekly close ever. Very, very, very bullish. You can't be bearish when you're getting strong closes at those all-time highs. Dow Jones Industrial Average slightly lagging. Let's just see relative to this trend line, is it coming into a resistance very, very, very soon. But similar to the rest, it's just lagging. I do expect that this should break out above this. And then you could start to accelerate back towards that trend line over there, which, dare I say, that could be about almost 50,000 for the Dow Jones some point towards the end of the year. I will outline timing cycles as well, which is probably one of the most important things to look at when it comes to trading, as opposed to price targets. Timing often repeats, right? The market moves in a very cyclical fashion, which means the emotions get elicited at a similar point in time. So we'll look at those main areas of interest in just a minute. NVIDIA breaking out all-time highs again, breaking out of this key level. Now, if you are trading NVIDIA, this is one area that you do want to be careful, because just from a very, very simple range trading perspective, this becomes the easiest short trade in the world. Anytime that you see price trading towards all-time high, if, that's a keyword, if it deviates and breaks back into the range, very simple short trade opportunity. This is a low time frame trade. I'm not talking about investors. Investors, you probably find, even if that pulled back, it's probably just going to reaccumulate and then later on continue to march up and break out to new all-time highs once again. But short-term traders, keep an eye on NVIDIA. If you sweep these highs over here, break back inside the trading range, very, very easy low time frame short trade for you. Let's quickly check out oil. Beautiful rejection over there. We identified that as very, very likely and a possibility. Now it's just capped in the middle of that range. You can see you got a midline over here. You're coming into the middle of that downsloping trend line. Let's have a look at Tesla. We spoke about the rejection off of that trend line and probable reaccumulation around the 200 moving average. That seems to be likely. Coinbase had some really, really big moves. We also spoke about that coming into the top of that parallel channel. Expect a little bit of a consolidation, anywhere over here between about 316 and current price. So between 316 and current price, you'll probably see Coinbase reaccumulate, oscillate over here, and then it can attempt at high. Remember, the measured move for Coinbase is all the way up to 514 and 656. By the way, if you do want to buy any of these stocks, remember, they are listed over here on BTCC. We partnered with them as an exchange. Crypto, Forex pairs, commodities, indices. So S&P 500, Tesla, Coinbase, all of those are listed on there, and you get a sign-up bonus. There's a link in the description below. Just scroll through over there to BTCC. You're getting, up to $10,000 sign-up deposit. Let's have a look at Robinhood, which was the inverse of Coinbase. So Robinhood putting in a little bit of a pullback over there. Not Robinhood, Circle. Let's go back to Circle, and then we'll go to Robinhood. There it is, Circle, which is the USDC coin, pretty much. Putting in a bit of a pullback over here. We don't have much to work with because this just IPO'd, right? So we have only a couple of fib levels that we can identify, as well as strong horizontals. This is going to be one area of interest. You have a little bit of a, let's put in a box over here, a bit of a cluster over here with a gap that might find some support. And we'll see how that lines up with the fibs. 140. Let's line up with our fibs over there and just see in terms of this. There we go, golden pocket. Very close, very, very, very close to the golden pocket. So you're currently testing the 50% level at 181. If this is lost and breaches that, look out below to about 146. I think that's the most high probable zone for a bounce. $146 on Circle, which again, you can trade over here if you do want to. Those are listed. Now let's go on to Robinhood. So Robinhood still doing very, very, very well, trading higher. Look at this absolutely behemoth run. I mean, how is this done relative to Bitcoin since the lows? I think that this may actually, from the lows, have outperformed Bitcoin. Look at that. That is, wow, it has. It's outperformed Bitcoin 1,200% move. So there's a lot of opportunity out there. I wouldn't be chasing this. If you do get strong pullbacks, you're throwing back into the breakout level of the cup and handle. That's 65. If you're already in this trade, pretty much hold it till about 123, where you should be getting some profits over there. Okay, now what does it mean for Bitcoin? We know that Bitcoin follows a very cyclical path. We can study this and work out some timing targets where the bull market may actually find its end. And you can see over here, well, so far this has been pretty similar to what we saw in 2017. And if that is going to be the case, 2017 was an absolutely stellar cycle where things started to mark up aggressively towards the end. We're following the purple trajectory over here. Green was 2021. Orange was 2017 over there. And basically, we're about 75 to 80% through the cycle. So what can you expect for the remainder 20%? Well, if it plays out anything like those price cycles, the last 20% is the most aggressive. Very bullish, parabolic moves. Things go up vertical. Will altcoins follow? I guess that's a big question, which is what we've seen in the price cycles. I think that you need to still be very, very, very selective. But the good news is that a rising tide does lift all ships. If Bitcoin goes up, other things will still go up in USD pair value. But will Bitcoin dominance break down? Not sure yet, right? I'm going to show you something that I'm looking at where we're reaching the apex of a rising wedge on Bitcoin dominance. And maybe you could sometime soon see that breakdown. You can actually vote. Go through into the YouTube channel over here. What is the most likely outcome for Bitcoin dominance? Do you think that it's just going to keep going up till the end of the bull run, meaning it doesn't drop at all? Do you think it's going to break down in the next 3 months with a rotation into altcoins? That's 50% of you. Do you think it's going to break down in 3 to 6 months? 16% of you believe that, and only 4% of you believe it's going to be a long still. Another 6 months or more before you see a breakdown in Bitcoin dominance. Anyway, timing cycles. How long can we expect the cycle to last? Now, this is a chart that I drew up a very, very long time ago. I think we drew this up literally near the cycle lows, some points in like January, February, March, somewhere around there, working out projections for when the cycle could top. And we based it off 2 metrics. One is the halving cycle, and the second is measuring from the cycle low. Now, what we concluded is the following. We concluded that this cycle should last anywhere between 46 and 49 months. 46 to 49 months places you in the green box, which is going to be August to November 2025. We can get a little bit more specific on those dates in just a little bit, but that's the crux of things, right? That's essentially what you're looking at. If the cycle plays out like the price cycles, August to November, which means you have a couple of months left. But oftentimes it's been theorized that the cycle will have diminishing returns, meaning we don't pump as much as we previously did, but lengthened cycles. So the cycle could actually go on even beyond that into 2026. Now, we do need to break some bearish divergences on the weeklies, which I'll show you. There is something interesting taking place over there. As assuming price action keeps closing where it's at now or any higher, we have the possibility of invalidating some of those things, which then would bring back the bullish bias that you should stick to this target and possibly even supersede this target. So this is what we've been focused on for quite some time, is we've been looking at price caught within these Elliott wave counts, wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, wave 4, and now we're looking at the final wave 5 push-up, which has got substructures in between. And remember, we've been hunting for that low, that wave 2 low, which may be confirmed. Is it confirmed yet? I think it's a little bit too soon to tell. One way that we can identify that, or at least try and shift the probabilities, is looking at a fib retracement from high to low of wave 1 to 2. And if you start to close multiple candles above where the 50% level, that's a strong indication, right? So let's quickly go to that. Put in the 50% level over there. Have you closed multiple candles above the 50% level? And the answer is yes. Yes, you have. You've closed already 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, almost a full week above that 50% level. Remember, I said to you in the beginning of the show that I think there's a possibility that you're going to sweep some of that liquidity, drop down to about $106,000. Well, if that does happen, and you can avoid taking out these lows. So if you see a quick sharp move down to 106 and you can hold that, that will drastically increase the chances that this is the wave 2 complete. And remember, our expectation is for wave 3 to be one of the strongest moves, right? This is meant to be one of the strongest moves towards the upside. So that is looking at it on the daily time frame, which means we'd be looking at acceleration higher. Now, this is always a little bit of guesswork. We have to look at things each week and each day as things pass by and reevaluate the data based on what the market is doing. But essentially, this is the trajectory that we'd be looking at, right? You could see that wave 3 finding major resistance somewhere around that $125,000 to $130,000 region, right? So I'm going to leave it more or less in that zone. Then you'd be looking for a pullback, short, very shallow for your wave 4. And then you're going to be looking for that wave 5 acceleration into the end of the cycle, right? So wave 5 and wave 5 meeting up over there and finding the end of the cycle. So most likely timing targets. I'm going to go with September. I still think September is the most likely timing target. Remember, we do have the bearish divergences over here, but I still am leaning towards this breaking towards the upside because we spoke about price consolidating into prior all-time highs being a very, very, very bullish thing. So if we measure this move conservatively as a bull flag, well, it also happens to line up with that next 1.618 fib extension, which lines up at $130,000. It also lines up over here with the resistance line that's been a major pivot level rejecting price each of those times. So March 2024, rejected again, December 2024, tested it once in late January 2025. And then this would be the next test of that. Remember, with your RSI testing about that 70 region. All right. So that's the expectation. These are some at least predictions. Prediction would be runs up, at least hits that $130,000 mark. Okay. At least testing $130,000. Could that be the final top? Absolutely. I would be taking profit over there and then expecting at the minimum a pullback from there, which could be your wave 4 pullback over here, wave 3 to 4, shallow. And then if you're going to continue up, you finish with the wave 5, which, yes, maybe that could be aggressive. And then we can start to look at anything else above 130 as just the sweet cherry on the top, right? And depending on where the stock market is, remember, we looked at the stock market over here, possibly pushing up to that 1.618 fib extension, 7,750. All right. So that's what we have on the table. We had the bearish divergence over here as well with this indicator over here. Momentum oscillators running down. Market cipher B putting in red dot. And we said, if bulls can just hold up a little bit longer and short squeeze alongside the stock market, you could possibly invalidate that. And we're starting to see that right now on the weekly scale, having had a red dot, now immediately printing a green dot, which means if we can just keep holding up over here or anywhere here or higher, you could start to see acceleration towards the upside, invalidating this bearish divergence with the market cipher B indicator, which will be a really, really good sign. Have a look at that. Green line moving towards the upside on a weekly shows the money flow rising. Remember, the last time we saw the money flow rising at the same rate was over here, which was in October, between September and October 2024. And remember, December into January is pretty explosive. That was this phase over here, setting in the top. That's where our money flow and momentum oscillator moved all the way to the top, and then it started to curve over. So we could be putting something like that in again. I also remind you that we spoke about how offsides a lot of the hedge funds would be. A lot of the hedge fund traders, very, very, very offsides in their positioning. And we said this is the reason that you probably see the S&P 500 or the stock market continue to rally towards the upside, is because every little dip that occurs, they're going to be forced to reposition. Now, they're still a little bit uncertain, those guys. The reason why they're uncertain is because the tariffs are not out off the table yet, right? The tariffs are still a potential risk factor for them, which is why they're hedged short, which means when the tariffs are basically resolved, then there's nothing in the way, no resistance. That's where you get that final phase, the blow of tops, right? So we'll need to wait for that. Now, I want to be clear. Everything that we've spoken about up until this point right now is a weekly time frame or higher, which plays out over months. So we want to be clear about that. In the short term, we could see pullbacks. We could see pullbacks down to about $106,000. You can see price coming down right now. Liquidity is stacked at $109,000. The other thing I wanted to have a look at is our own version of what's happening with the crypto liquidity is looking at the 7-day moving average for the daily exchange volume. That's one. And number two, the total cryptocurrency market cap. We haven't looked at this for a long time. It's the Gaussian channel. It's a trend trading indicator, which I also measured out how long it tends to remain green for. Once it turns green, that's when the bull run really kicks off. How long does it stay green before putting in a major top? And the first cycle, it was 104 bars, 728 days. Second cycle, 819. So we went with the conservative target, as we always do, 728 days. Where does that put you? 22nd of September. 22nd of September is the conservative target. Right around that point is where you want to start to be careful. But that leaves you still with another 84 days. So 12 weeks, right? 12 weeks, 4, 8, 12, 3 months. At least 3 months into September. Minimum, right? Minimum target over there. What's incredible about this is when you zoom in and you have a look at that. That is a perfect throwback, not only into the upper band of the Gaussian channel, but also into the 2021 previous all-time highs, which is an incredibly bullish sign for the total cryptocurrency market cap. You've put in some big moves over here, which means that, you know, the expectation is that the last 20% of the bull run, things become very exciting. Things start to move up very quickly. So will we get a bullish summer? I mean, we'll need to keep an eye out for that summer for the US, that is. As long as you keep putting in those high lows, with this possibly being the next major high low. Remember, we've also studied this and had a look at this in terms of putting in that wave 2 count, which is what I just described over here for Bitcoin, putting in that wave 2, which is this section over here. We're hunting the same wave 2 on the total cryptocurrency market cap. And one way to determine if that wave 2 is coming was this. We're having a look at the range over here. We still need to break that 3.36 trillion. So yes, you could aggressively buy the dip over here, but that comes with increased risk that you're wrong. Or you could buy later, which would be in the form of consolidating above the 50% level, which we're now doing. Multiple candle closes above there. It means you buy higher, but you have insurance. The insurance is that you have a higher probability that that is the wave 2 low, the bottom is in, and you're looking at acceleration into that wave 3 count, which is big, strong moves towards the upside. Now, if you want to wait to be really safe, instead of looking to allocate around here, you can still just wait for this to breaking that lower high structure. So you can break that lower high structure over there, put in your first higher high, wait for the next big pullback, which might only be in a few weeks' time, and then you have a really golden opportunity over there with what I'll remind you over here is the Gaussian channel, also the upper boundary, now lifting and rising above those prior all-time highs. Look at that. That's going to be rock solid support, which gives you a strong invalidation. The invalidation would be basically if you start to close any more weekly candles underneath there, then this would look like a high, a lower high, and a deviation back into the old all-time highs, which would be bearish. But if you can hold this, you know, that's going to start to look really good. And that Gaussian channel every week is going to be rising higher and higher, which is going to add additional support over there. Okay, so a little bit of a high time frame, more macro kind of show today. We have a lot more to go through, so don't go anywhere. Oh, I also promised you something on Friday. I told you, do not sign up to 𝗪𝗏, right? Do you remember that? I said, do not sign up to 𝗪𝗏. There will be another opportunity. If you want to join into 𝗪𝗏, we have a whole lot of absolutely solid traders over there, coaches for you, which is absolutely crushing it in the market, making constant profits over here. And I said, if you do want to join, I'm going to ask the team if we can do something special for you. And they didn't fail to deliver. They did it. If you're savvy and smart enough, you would have already seen what's linked in the description below. If you go through to the link in the description below, I asked you, we got about 300 people that said they would love to join if we could arrange a discount. Well, we managed to secure it for 50. The first 50 people, it's linked in the description below. You can get 37% off. This is the biggest sale that we've done in a very long time, probably since Black Friday. Limited to the first 50 people. use the code 𝗪𝗚𝗪𝗓𝒀𝒀𝒀. Click that link, use the code 𝗪𝗚𝗪𝒀𝒀𝒀. Act fast, first 50 people, first come, first serve. It is all linked over there below for you. All right, let's continue. So total cryptocurrency market cap pulling back. Basically, just watch for how price reacts over here at the 3.23. That's going to be an important level, $3.23 trillion mark. If it keeps, it might obviously wick a little bit below. We still have the fair value gaps, right? I just want to be clear. You still have a little bit of a fair value gap. We're probably better off seeing, let's quickly check on the 12-hour time frame. Here we go. On the 12-hour time frame, you have these fair value gaps. So if you do see that Bitcoin moves down to about $106,000 in the short term, and you get a quick move taking out this liquidity, right? This is all liquidity. Quick move into there. That's going to be your secondary opportunity. Okay, secondary opportunity, high, low. You should expect an immediate snapback and reclaim of that mid-range level, which is 3.23 trillion. And then things will be looking good over there. Crypto market cap for the RSIs on all various different altcoins. On the weekly, you can see everything is still hanging in this weak territory. Nothing has really moved yet, right? So it's still very early, which is what you can see over here. So one more flush down. Use the candlesticks over here as additional confluence with things like this. That provides an opportunity, which means you can go and have a look over here. Which coins look solid and have relative strength, but pull back slightly with that RSI, with the RSIs coming down and this dropping into that key zone, and that provides a good opportunity. So will Bitcoin dominance drop? That, I guess, is the gazillion-dollar question. Not even $1 million question, gazillion-dollar question. Parallel channel rising towards the upside. Rising wedge, right? You are approaching near the apex. What I would say about this is, I'm expecting a rejection, right? From anywhere between 66 and 69%. I'm expecting a rejection within that zone, which means that altcoins should perform. But I wouldn't necessarily suggest that anybody sells their altcoin bags because they're greedy and want to make a whole lot more money. I think that it's a dangerous game to play. But I think if you have spare capital that you want to risk, at the end of the day, you're reaching the apex. So I think that you could see one more move like this, one more move like this, and then a drop. The most likely timing for when you would expect the Bitcoin dominance to truly top would be in alignment with what you're seeing on this chart, which means typically Bitcoin has massive strength into the end of the cycle, the last phase, which I would say would be to about $130,000. And that's usually where the rotation would take place. That would be my base case for a rotation from Bitcoin into, full-blown, call it altcoin season, would be somewhere around the 1.618 fib extension, 130,000. Remember, today is more of like a prediction show, so I'm really putting my neck on the line over here. But I could be entirely wrong, which is why we have to keep evaluating the charts. But evaluating the chart, I would think that move for Bitcoin to $130,000 would put in one more big drive in the Bitcoin dominance pump. And then somewhere within this pink box over here is where you'd find a local top and then start to pull back. I don't want to necessarily make claims that this thing's going down to, 30%, but at least an interim small pullback, which could rotate into altcoins. Now, if you want to take advantage of those altcoin pumps, remember, guys, starting in 15 days, actually, we've started. The competition has started, so I need to start trading this. The competition ends now in 15 days' time, and that's the War of the Whales. It's a massive blowfin challenge over here. You can win $4.2 million if you want to join my team specifically. There is a link in the description below. If you click that, here you go. If you click that link to join my team, there you go. There it is. I've just joined the team. We have a huge series of people on this team over here. Jump in. We currently ranked 24. So we want to get to number 1. Jump into the team over here. Sign up. You can win up to $4.2 million. All right, let's go. Let's go into some of the low time frames. It's already been, how long are we in the show? Already almost 30 minutes. So let's rush through the rest just to get the low time frame traders ready for the rest of the week. Positive deltas coming into resistance. It's as simple as that. So longs opening up into resistance in the short term, you need to be careful of that. We are coming off very low volatility, which is still contracting. Look at the Bollinger Bands, by the way. This is telling us a massive mover's break. Look at how they're starting to aggressively turn in. Aggressively turning in, squeezing. So you might squeeze a little bit further. about another, how long would this take? I would say probably about at some point in July, end of July would most likely begin to expand. This is also setting up a base over here where a little bit of upside. It's not moving down as aggressively on the daily exchange volume. It's reaccumulating, very, very, very similar to what you're seeing over here on the Bollinger Band with percentile and the Bollinger Bands contracting in. That tells you a big move is coming. But again, longs into resistance, right? Longs everywhere into resistance, downsloping trend line. So I think that before you pump, you could just wipe those guys out very, very, very quickly. That would be the move down into about 106. Watch for that. And then the next move, as soon as you start to trade above this trend line, short squeeze in motion alongside the stock market, higher prices could come into play very, very, very quickly because volatility is low. And the next move is the most likely real expansive move that's taking place. All of the moving averages are postured bullish. 9 above the 18, 18 above the 50, 50 above the 200s. It looks good over there. Okay, so quick pullback. Will you get all the way down into the fair value gap? You know, I would say at least $106,000 retest. So 106 is over there. Possibly even drop it all the way down into 103,500 because you do have a fair value gap. That doesn't have to happen, but it's probable. Right, that's for Bitcoin. We're getting the USDT bear flag, which is probably the one most important chart in crypto, really holding underneath those moving averages, the 50 and 200. As long as you're below this SR flip region, bullish for the rest of the market. If you get above that, bearish for the rest of the market. If you start to break this trend line over here, that's the inverse where Bitcoin breaks above its highs and starts to accelerate towards that $130,000 target. If you take out the yellow line, which is 4.49%, that's where altcoins probably start to perform. And if you make it down to 3.18, which is the measured move of this bear flag, parabolic, everything. Okay, SPX. Okay, that is everything for Bitcoin, right? We've gone through everything for Bitcoin. Let me know in the comments if there's any particular altcoins that you want to have a look at. We had a look at SPX. I see the last chart that we had, also 12-hour time frame, perfectly into the fair value gap, holds it, and price is starting to move up. All right, what else? What else, guys? All right. Okay, let's see. I'm just waiting for the latency to come through so I can see your guys' comments. Ondo, sure, let's go. There we go. Ondo, how's Ondo looking? Still accumulating over there, right at the range lows. So, you know, if you think Bitcoin dominance is going to break down, this is the environment for a lot of the altcoins. But again, I want to be clear. Personally, I wouldn't sell my Bitcoin to rotate into, you know, low cap altcoins or anything like that, or even medium cap altcoins. It's very, 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 very risky. You want to wait for much more confirmation. But things that are still in good zones, we looked at, of course, a trade opportunity over here, also coming perfectly into the 618. That is on SUI. So far, you're in profit. Everything is holding up. You could theoretically eliminate your risk over there on that trade. No risk needed. Solana, also, I think we took along on this one as well. Coming into key support, fair value gap, put in a big move over there. You know, you might get a little bit of a throwback down to about 145. Still lower highs, right? Don't deny the trend. Lower highs and lower lows, lower highs and lower lows. So you need to breach this. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done over here, but we're in the early innings with the possibility of reversing. Okay, Sonic broke the downsloping trend line, going through the we had the accumulation, manipulation below the range. As soon as this breaks back into the trading range, which is 37.38 cents, get above 37.38 cents, and it's going to be looking really, really, really good over there. Another one that we'll have a look at also is that we've mentioned, let's quickly pull it into view. You had like a 150, 200% move or something on Nobody Sausage. You now need to, we spoke about these trend lines. So you've officially breached those. I'm going to clear them. We've breached those. Coming into support, still holding that support, reaccumulating over here. If we can now see this break the yellow line, then it's going to be really, really cooking. So off the lows over there, that put in 130% move. Of course, it pulled back ever so slightly, down 15% off of 130% move. Not bad, not bad. So buyers are stepping in. You have your first higher high over here. If you can just consolidate for a bit longer, should be enough to challenge that downsloping trend line on Nobody Sausage. You see the buy stepping in right now. What is the market cap on this? Currently 20 million. Remember, this team got the previous market caps up on Popcat and Fog, same team over there. They got those to, I think, I can't remember what Fog was, but I think it was close to $1 billion. I think it might have made it to about 750 million. Popcat, though, made it to over $1 billion. which means even from here to 100 million is a 5x. And that would be weak, right? That would be weak compared to what the other projects did. So still holding on hope for this one as a potential dark horse that could really, really pump. All right, what else have we got? Okay. Okay. Big red machine, you bought too soon. If you're down 75%, you shouldn't really be down based off of when we mentioned, because the area of interest was the purple box, which we've now hit. So, yeah, I think you're just going to have to remain patient. I wouldn't necessarily add to a loser, though. All right, a lot of people's strategy is to add to losers to dollar cost average down. I don't necessarily subscribe to that approach unless you have a really long-term outlook. I think on something like Bitcoin, fair enough, whatever. But a meme coin, I don't know, bit sketchy. Okay, 𝗵𝗵𝗴. Let's have a look at 𝗵𝗵𝗴. How's it doing? Okay, all the degens are coming out the woodworks again. Okay, 𝗵𝗵𝗴, falling wedge over here, you know, came all the way down at the minimum you need to reclaim that 50% level. So there's a lot of work to be done over here. Low lows, lower highs, still the name of the game. Break above the 50%. Then you can say that, you know, you've reclaimed this key level. If you reject from here, that's going to be really bearish. If you can't get above the pink box over here, that's going to be very bearish. So very interesting sign for the market. We must see this get above 1194. All right. How is PopCat doing? Let's actually have a look at PopCat. Do we have it on the list? I think we had removed it, but let's have a look at PopCat. PopCat. Okay, PopCat USDT. All right, falling wedge as well. Very, very, very similar. Pretty key area over here. You can see this was your reaccumulation zone. So you've essentially thrown back into that. At this point in time, this was your reaccumulation, reaccumulation, rally towards the upside, resistance, and basically you want to see that flip into support now. If you break back into this, you open up the trading range to move down to 24 cents on PopCat, possibly even 20 cents. Okay, no memes, says Steve. Steve, you got to tell your friends in the chat. They're the ones that want the memes. I'm just reading the comments over here. Look, these are your friends. Look, he wants Fartcoin. These are your friends. They're not mine. Okay, let's have a look at Fartcoin. Let's see. Fartcoin is actually more under AI anyways, but AI wrapped with a meme name. Okay, let's see Fartcoin. So yeah, holding over there. Should be reclaiming that 50% level. So what I'm doing for most of the coins to be a bit safer is measure from the local high down to the local low. Ask yourself, is it above or below the 50% level? This one's tagging the 50% level right now, which is an important zone. So if it can start to close above 116, decent. NEAR, let's have a look at NEAR. Do we have it on the list? Okay, NEAR USDT. All right, this one got heavily hit. Still just hovering around here. So I don't expect fireworks yet, but main level to hold, right? Potential double bottom in play. You can see from the previous low, perfect test into there. Potential double bottom, slightly higher closing price over here. But yeah, I'll just remain patient. Just track like things like Total, 2, 3, and others to get a better sense of if things are going to move into a markup phase or they're just reaccumulating. All right. Cool, guys. While we wait for a couple more requests, also stay safe out there. Remember, we are partnered with NordVPN. Stay protected. Hide your IP address. There's a link in the description below for that as well. They're giving you 74% off for those of you that do use that link. So if you were looking for VPN, NordVPN specifically, you can get 74% off with that link. All right, let's see what else. Guys, you see, everyone's asking for memes. What am I meant to say? We got Goku, we got Useless, we got Brett, Pengu. It's literally all memes. Meme mania. Let's have a look at Goku quickly. How is Goku doing over here? Goku up 2%. Still probably hovering around those range lows. Okay, still reaccumulating. Reaccumulation zone. The project's doing good things. I see they've got major listings on a bunch of other exchanges. So they still seem to be tagging along, and I still hold all my coins. 5,000 holders strong. All right, let's go to FET. Wait, Link was one of the requests. Let's quickly see Link, and then we'll go to FET. Let's remove that. So, all right, I probably have to redo this chart. It's a little bit messy. Let's go into the daily. All right. I mean, Chainlink, big reaccumulation range. I genuinely think it will probably make it down at least to just under $9 again, one more time. It's in the middle of no man's land. There's really little that you can say over here. Okay, we've been hearing a lot of requests for useless, so let's just pull it up. How's useless doing? I don't know if we've actually pulled this one up before. Useless will go on the Mexi one. I'm assuming this is a meme coin. And yes, obviously got some of the most mind share. We'll move it into the meme section. Right, useless. Very, very, very strong. But if you buy now, you're going to get rugged. You're asking for trouble. What is the market cap on this? Let's go see over here. Useless. What is the market cap? Okay, useless coin. Where is that? Fully diluted. It's almost 200 million. This thing will definitely pull back. If you buy here, you're going to get rugged. I'm telling you. This is controlled by a market maker. It's just straight up. They're orchestrating interest, right? That's what they do. They basically paint a chart. That's what it's called. They paint a chart, run it towards the upside, pull in the last late people. It will definitely rug. It will pull down hard, probably, 50, 60%. And then that next step is where you see what it's made of. I think it'll probably, they pay a lot of money to do something like this. They have to actually put money in to get the chart to move up. So yeah, keep an eye on it. All right, I see I got like a warning over there that I need to move along. So what else do we have? I think we've been through just about everything. A quick reminder. Remember, guys, first 50 people, I can see on my emails on the right-hand side, about 30 of you have already taken this. So there's 20 spots remaining. Use the link in the description below. Whale Trader, that is what you want. Whale Trader over there. That's it from me. I'll see you all on the next one. Have a great day, everyone, and cheers for now.